Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. My name is Dr. Lesley, and I am your host for this evening's show. And we have a great show planned for you this evening. We are going to have a show where we're going to talk about nature spirits today. I've actually written a book called The Midas Tree. And last week, I found out that it was the finalist in a book award called the Montaigne Medal. And so I was very pleased about that. And of course, this book, so the main characters in the book are nature spirits. And it reminded me, my goodness, I have not done a radio show yet about nature spirits. And so all of the nature spirits around me and that helped me create my book were saying, talk about us, talk about us. And so that's what I'm going to do in today's show. So, one name that we typically use for nature spirits is that we call them Devas. And you may not realize this, but every plant, every animal, every rock, everything is consciousness. And Devas are spirits that are associated with these various aspects of nature. And they're spirits that are in service to nature. So their role is really things like helping the plants grow and, looking after a waterfall or a volcano. And these beings, they're like spirit guides or angels in that they exist in what is a non-ordinary reality to us. So typically we can't see them with our physical eyes, but we can tune into them with our inner senses. And when you tune into them, they can appear to you in more or less a human form, or as energy beings, as light. And the other thing that is interesting about these devas or nature spirits is that they have a tendency to sort of just join together in a kind of a hive mind like bees. And so there might be a group of nature spirits all joined together watching over a particular region or a particular area. And of course they can be extremely powerful spiritual helpers if you make friends with one of these nature spirits. Now there are basically a few different groups of devas, and the first group of devas, or elementals, that's another word for them, are the ones that work with humans in assisting the humans to heal and in protecting them. And so it's kind of interesting, when I wrote my book, I didn't really know very much about nature spirits at all, but the book was actually channeled. So the way it worked was I became aware that I was meant to write a book. And then I went into meditation to connect with the information that I was meant to bring through. And so I had a vision of all the information in this book. And it existed as a thought form. And I actually watched as all of these sort of thousands, if not millions, of little energy beings coalesced around the thought form for my book and started working on helping it to come into physical form. And after that meditation and seeing that, I actually that night downloaded the book and was able to write it very, very easily. And of course, the story was about various things, but very much about nature and about these nature spirits. So they helped me write the book. So the first group are the ones that work with humans, and they will work with you to, if you ask them to help you when you're wanting to manifest and create something new, they help you to translate the thought form that you are having, that you are projecting, into something that can appear in the physical world and into physical matter. Another group of devas are called elementals. And, actually, I wanted to talk about, because that's going to take me a while to go through those, fairies and elves. Of course, we've all heard about fairies and elves. And that's a name that is sometimes given for devas who work with vegetables and fruits and flowers and plants. And so in my book, there are devas that live in the tree, which is the name of the book, the Midas tree. And there are different devas that look after the roots and help the tree ground into the earth. And different devas who help with the water, bringing the water in to hydrate the plant. And there is different devas who work with the leaves and the photosynthesis and assimilating light, and different devas that work with the fruits and the vegetables and the bees and everything that's in the tree. So another name for those that we commonly use is the fairies and the elves. And I was also told that this group of devas can also be connected to gemstones and stones and even talismans that you might wear, and the sacred spots on the earth. And also even sort of around the natural habitat and environment where someone who's a spiritual master or spiritual teacher is residing. Some of them will naturally stay around those great spiritual master beings, and who wouldn't? We all flock to them to learn from them. And then finally, the third type of devas that I wanted to introduce you to in today's show are called the elementals. And so, again, and these are ones that also, do what I said. It's like helping you to bring thought forms into reality. Now, you will have heard that they're associated actually with the 4 elements. And those 4 elements, as I'm sure most of you know, is the earth, the fire, the air, and the water. And so the ones that are associated with the earth, we commonly refer to them as gnomes. These are the nature spirits of the earth. And I don't know much about gnomes, and but there are also other words for these earth spirits. So brownies, dryads, dirdalis, earth spirits, elves, hamadryads, pans, pygmies, sylvestres, and satyrs. And so I recognize some of those names. I took a little journey onto Google before the show. And of course, funnily enough, dryads are the ones that I normally typically associate with trees. So I would have thought that they were more the, like the fairies and the elves. But anyway, and so that's the earth spirits. And of course, then there are the fire spirits, which we commonly call salamanders. And they are the spirit of the fire. So they're the consciousness that resides within fire. So you can't light a match without a salamander being present. So apparently there are many families of salamanders, and of differing size, appearance, and so forth. So sometimes people see them as small balls of light. But other times people perceive them as being lizard-like, and maybe even up to a foot long. And they're considered to be really one of the most powerful of all the elementals, and I suppose you can see that because fire is such a transformative force. It can change matter from one form to another. Now, in my Googling, I found out that the ruler of the salamanders is a flaming being called Jinn. I think that's associated with the genies. It's a similar name, isn't it? And so apparently the fire spirits can be mischievous, and they're a bit like children, so they don't always understand the results of their actions. And they can also be affected by people and people's moods. So if you're living with someone with a fiery temper, or there's some kind of disharmony in your home, that can often attract one of these fiery spirits to come and be mischievous. The air spirits are called sylphs. And these ones have the highest vibratory rate of the 4 different elementals. Now, interestingly enough, my whole life, when I look into the air, I've been able to see the air. When I look up the sky, it's like just a swarming. It's like there's a swarm of things flying around in the air. And from time to time, I've met one or two other people who are intuitively open, and they see the same thing that I do. And in reading about these air spirits, I'm wondering if that's what I'm seeing, is the sylphs, the spirits of the air. Anyway, they're associated with mountaintops. Apparently, they have in mythology, their ruler is called Haralda, who dwells on the highest mountains of the earth, and apparently can assume human form for short periods of time. These air spirits are volatile, they're changeable, they travel on the wind, and they do their work through the gases and the ethers of the earth. And apparently they're quite well disposed to humans. And so typical depictions of things like cherubs and even fairies, apparently they're often depicted as having wings because of their association with the air. And their role is to support humankind in receiving inspiration. So they're particularly magnetized towards very creative people. And then finally, we have the water spirits. They're referred to as undines, and there are lots of words for these water spirits, and some of them are mermaids, of course, oreads, naiads, oceanids, limoniades, Potamides, sea maidens, and water spirits. So a lot of ancient Greek versions of these undines. So they're elemental beings that they're the spirit of the water, and they're able to control to a great degree the course and function of the water element. And they're beautiful and they're graceful, and they ride the waves of the ocean. And you can find them in rocky pools, in marshlands, in the ocean, in waterfalls, in rivers, in streams, and they also work with the plants that grow under the water, so seaweeds and things like that. And these are sort of shimmering beings. And of course every fountain has a nymph as well, so a nymph is another form of undine or water spirit. And again, apparently they often live in coral caves under the ocean, or in riverbanks, or under lily pads. And they're present in everything containing water. And they also have a ruler, and apparently their ruler being is called Nexa. And they are very emotional beings, and they're friendly, and they are open to being of service to humans. So there you have it. A little journey through the nature spirits, through the Devic kingdom. And I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about them. Like, as I said, I kind of inadvertently learned about them when I channeled and wrote my book, which is called The Midas Tree. And, in reading about these different devas, I recognize in the book there's like I said, there's different ones in there that serve different functions, and so I'm looking forward to writing my next book, because I think that I will expand out my repertoire of different types of devas and add a few more characters. So I hope you're enjoying the show, and we're in transition here at the moment at CIVL because we just moved to a new studio. And that means that's why we missed a show 2 weeks ago. And that's why last week, if you tried to call us, you weren't able to. And unfortunately, this week, the phone lines are still not functioning. So today, if you'd like to send us any experiences that you've had with nature spirits, you can email info@drlesleyphillips.com. Welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. So, here we are at that section of the show where we're answering your questions. And so I'm going to ask the producer, Corey, what questions we have today.
Well, actually, I had a question for you starting off, Dr. Lesley, and that is what happened to hobbits?
Oh, my goodness, yes, what happened to hobbits? Well, isn't it? Hobbits are fictional characters because they were written about by Tolkien. But I'm sure that obviously he was tuning into... I would imagine that the hobbits are a kind of earth spirit. I mean, they live under the earth, don't they? And they're a bit like gnomes or brownies. So yeah, that's what would be my guess, that Tolkien was tuning in to some kind of earth spirit when he talked about hobbits. I don't know that hobbits existed before that book. Do you know?
No, I don't think so. Maybe they did. Maybe he picked it up from somewhere. But one of the things that was really interesting information about those spirits. I've often thought that I might run into something in the woods, but it's funny. Today I was out in the backyard and I was looking at the hummingbird feeder, and there's hummingbirds all over it. There are 3 or 4 of them. And I looked at these birds and I realized right now that these are like sylphs, like spirits of the air. They have such character for birds, and they seem to have no fear of humans whatsoever. It's like they understand us in a way. I was really impressed with them, with watching them. I was about 2-3 feet away from them when they were there. What's your opinion on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, hummingbirds do exist at a very high frequency, and we were saying, weren't we, that the air spirits are the highest frequency of all the different elementals. So what's my take on that? Well, it wouldn't surprise me if the hummingbird and the air spirits are working together. I mean, I think it is an animal in its own right, but it's a very high frequency animal that has, or bird, should I say, that has a really strong connection with the element of air. And, I could tune into the energy of hummingbird right now and give you a sort of more of a spiritual read on that bird. So let me do that. Well, that's what I'm getting is that, they have obviously, as most creatures other than humans do, they have a really strong direct connection with source energy, and they have a really high vibration. And one of the things that hummingbird is teaching humans is to raise our vibration, is to let go of the heavier and denser cares that we tend to carry around with us. Because they're unimportant and not very helpful. So to raise our vibration, and they're also such joyful creatures, helping us to tune in and connect with joy. I mean, you only have to see a hummingbird like you were looking at this afternoon, and you instantly feel joyful because they carry that vibration of joy. And what else can I say about hummingbird? It's also, as you raise your frequency, of course, then it's easier to connect with spirit. So they're also teaching us how to connect with spirit and how to have our own direct connection with spirit. So that would be my take on the hummingbird. I don't believe that of course they are nature spirits in the sense that they're part of nature and they're birds. I don't think that they're the same as the sylphs that we were talking about, but the parallels are completely evident.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Well, we do have a question about not quite fairies, but this is a question from Kate. And Kate asks, I just moved into a new city, but I somehow got lost emotionally. Now I don't know if I should continue my original quest to study dance. So she's a little bit of a fairy too, I guess. Or find something that would let me live in the countryside, which I miss.
Okay, so Kate has a real strong connection with the countryside, and she's missing that connection with nature now that she's in the city. So let me tune in, and for anyone who doesn't know, the way that I do this is I go into a very light self-induced trance, which allows me to see and hear a spirit and connect with people's energy, and I'm going to just do that now with Kate. So I'm just taking a look. Well, one of the things that I'm seeing is when you were living, I'm assuming you were living previously in the countryside and not in such a busy city, but it looks like when you're in the countryside and when you're in nature, it's really easy for you to be grounded. You naturally ground when there's nature around you and when there's lots of space around you. It really helps you to connect with the earth and to connect with yourself and to connect with your body. And of course, the dancing does the same thing. The dancing helps you connect with your body. And what I'm seeing has happened, but there's some association with having moved to the city and having lost your grounding. And it's because there's a lot more going on in the city, and there's a lot more people whose energy you come into contact with. You actually need to increase your grounding because it's not as easy to be grounded in those circumstances. And so I'm seeing that part of the thing is you need to ground more because you are in the city. And the reason that you're saying you feel lost emotionally is connected as well with now being in an area which is a higher density population, because it looks like you came from somewhere where you were more used to having your space around you, and now you're picking up on all of the energy of all of lots of other people, and so you're experiencing other people's emotions, and it's confusing you. And so it's like you've lost your connection with earth, you've lost your connection with your body, which is the grounding, and you're feeling lost because of that, and you're also feeling lost because you've lost, like I said, you've lost your connection with yourself. The solution looks like to ground, and if you ground, that will allow you to reconnect, and it will allow you to let go of the foreign energy that is impacting you, and you'll be able to get clearer about whether you like to stay in the city or not. And if I take a look at dancing and whether that is the path for you, well, I can certainly see that one of the things about the dance that attracts you is, and it reminds me of the hummingbird that we were just looking at, is that it allows you to connect with your own joy, and it allows you to communicate joy through the movements of your body. Communicate joy to others. And so I'm seeing that in the city you've lost your joy, and part of what you're talking about is reclaiming your joy, and dancing helps you to do that. Do I see you, when I look at you being a professional dancer, or changing to do something else? Well, I do feel that being a dancer is definitely part of your path. And you're just a bit confused for the reasons that we've talked about. So I'll leave it there, Kate. I hope that that's helped you. And we'll see whether Corey has an email from somebody else.
Actually, I have a question. I guess Rita was heard you mention your book, and Rita emailed in, and Rita asks, will I find emotional success with my writing career?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. Will I find emotional success with my writing career? So let me tune in to Rita and see what she's meaning by that question. I'm just taking a moment to tune into. So will I find emotional success? So it looks like, many creative people, one of the things that they're wanting to do is through their writing or their paintings or their dance is to communicate emotionally with others, to evoke an emotional response or reaction with others. And it looks like that's what Rita means when she says, will I find emotional success? And also the fulfillment that comes with being successful at doing a project like writing a book. So will she find this? And of course, one of the things I always say is I won't predict the future for people. Not because it can't be done, but it doesn't make any sense because you create your own reality, you create your own future. And all the future is a field of probabilities. So I could tune into the most probable probability, but you could change it at any time. But I will look at your desire to successfully write a book and be an author and see if there's anything that would get in your way of doing that. Well, what I want to say to you, Rita, is you are a writer, you are an author, you are, I can see very clearly when I tune into you energetically that is a really strong signal or frequency that I pick up in you. At the moment, remember how I said when I was talking about writing my book, and I said that first it existed as a thought form, first it existed in spirit, and then, the next job was to bring it through into a material and physical form. And so I'm seeing that what you are wanting to write about is exactly like that. It does already exist in spirit. It's there. You don't have to create it. You just have to move whatever is in your way of allowing that to flow through you. And I'm seeing that that's the block. The block is that you're doubting yourself. It's your lack of belief in yourself. It's your questioning yourself that's slowing the manifestation process down here. So I would, work on letting go of self-doubt, because you are a writer. Whether you've completed a book this lifetime or not, it's in you. That creative urge to write, that urge to express yourself in that way, that urge to impact people through the written word, it's there in you. It's part of your, let's call it your soul urge. It's part of the makeup of what makes you your unique you. So you just have to get out of your own way. And of course, there are many ways of doing that, and meditation is one, and grounding is a great one for letting go of limits. So I'll leave Rita's question there, Corey. And is there another one for us?
Yeah, we definitely have another question. They always come in. And this one is from Lillian. I think I pronounced that correctly. Lillian. How do I fully open my innate psychic abilities? I know they are there, but can't seem to unleash them. And that, again, is from Lillian.
Well, that is a great question. And I might give a general answer as a general teaching, and then I might tune into Lillian's energy and give a specific answer as well. So you're quite right, Lillian. You do have innate psychic and intuitive abilities. Everyone listening, you do too. Everyone not listening, you do too. We all do. And so what I find in general, the blocks for people wanting to do this who are having trouble are, number one, not being grounded. So in order to activate and use your intuitive abilities, you kind of need to get grounded in your life and in your body, and connect, consciously connect. Be consciously awake and aware and consciously connect with them. So that's one. But also the strong pulls of the physical body can be so strong that they prevent our focus on the more subtle intuitive signals. So for example, a big one is the intellect. We are so, especially in the West, we're so trained to just focus on our intellect, on our logical mind, on our analyzer. And so unfortunately, many of us, that's what we do. We try, we'll receive an intuitive signal, or not, because we'll be in our analyzer. But if we do, we immediately run it through our analyzer, weigh up the pros and cons, question it, and before long it's completely disappeared. So the intellect and the emotions. The emotions belong to the physical body. They don't belong to you, the spiritual being. And so just being caught up in the emotional drama of life can stop you connecting as spirit and being clear and neutral and able to connect. So that's the general answer. Just a few tips of what some of the main blocks for people in general are. And fear is another one. A lot of people have received religious programming that this is something that is, untoward in some way. And it's not. It's just a natural ability, natural senses that we all have. I'm going to tune into Lillian specifically now and take a look and see if we can give some specific information for her. Just doing that now. And taking a look at what the block is. Well, and I can see that there is a block. You're right about that. And the block is in the area where the throat is. There's an energy center there. Some of us call it your fifth chakra, but basically it's a communication center. And it's a channel for many different intuitive abilities. And it's also related to just speaking your truth. And I'm seeing that when you were a child, you were one of those kids that you were open at that time. And your intuitive information was flowing freely through you. And it looks like you were a bit of a know-it-all. So you've got this ability called claircognizance, where you just instantly know information. And children who have that, you can tell who they are because they're the little know-it-alls. And so I'm seeing that you were a little know-it-all, and that you were always just delivering what you knew to people. And sometimes what you were delivering, what you knew, was a direct observation of something to do with them or a particular situation. And I'm seeing that the adults found it rather uncomfortable and told you to stop being a little know-it-all and, to be quiet and to keep your opinions to yourself and, and even invalidated some of the things that you knew. And so the block is in the expression of what you are receiving intuitively, because you were told to tone it down and to shut up and not to say it. And so I'm seeing that, that's why you're sort of like, you're aware that there is an innate psychic ability, because it's not blocked on the way in, it's blocked on the way out. It's like you've got this block to speak your truth, to say what you're intuiting. And so if you're wanting to unblock that, then I would just revisit your childhood and those incidences where you were told to, basically shut up and let them go. De-energize them, release them. They don't need to affect you anymore. You're a grown adult and you can say whatever you like. All right.
Rena asks, and I guess the show isn't really unlocking your truth, or the Dr. Lesley show, unless we get a question about love, right? And so this is from Rena, and Rena asks, why can I not forget about my first love in this life?
Oh, gosh. Well, that's a common thing, isn't it? I suppose usually most of us get over it by the time we're sort of getting into our middle age, but I think a lot of people hold on to their first love for a while. So I don't know how old Rena is, but I'll take a look at Rena's energy and the first love that she had, and see why she's having trouble. Do you want to forget? Or what you really mean is that somehow you're still hanging on to that energetically. So let's see. I'm just going into my trance state and connecting with Rena and her energy, and I'm just taking a look at her, and I'm taking a look at the person that was her first love. And I'm seeing it has to do with something that first love gave to you that you had never had before. And I'm sure we could think of some jokes to say around that, but what I mean by that is that it was your first experience of kind of unconditional love from another human being. That it looks like when you were growing up, your parents had high expectations of you. And so it felt like they didn't love you unless you performed in the manner that they expected of you. And, performing at school comes up, and just, behaving in a certain way as well. And it looks like your first love was the first person who didn't have any expectations apart from having fun and being with you. At least for the part of the relationship that is sticking with you. So that person gave you a great gift. It helped you to see, to know that you are loved unconditionally, that you are accepted unconditionally. And of course, that is the truth for all of us. But, it's a rare gift to receive that from another human being. So that's what I'm picking up. I'm going to see if there's anything else. Well, I suppose the thing to say about how to stop connecting your loss of feeling that you're... because I'm seeing since then that, again, there's always been a lot of people who've just wanted something from you. And so what you're actually really wanting is just that, to get that unconditional love, to be accepted as you are. And so I'm seeing that your way to let go of connecting it to that first love is to realize the presence of that unconditional love within you. So you are source energy. You are a part of God, if you use the word God. And God, or source energy, is love. It is love, it is light, it is acceptance. If you are a part of God, how can you not be acceptable? How can you not be good enough? How can you be expected to be anything other than you are? And so the key out of your dilemma, Rena, is to find that unconditional love and affinity and acceptance that exists inside you. And a good place to look for that, to begin with, is in your heart. Just look for that light and that love inside your heart and focus on it and allow it to expand. So I hope that's explained what's going on. And we're going to see whether Corey has another comment, a story, or another question.
I always have lots of comments, but I keep them to myself. I do have another question from Libby, and Libby wants to know, what is blocking me from finding success?
Blocking her from finding success?
That's Libby.
Very simple question, and I will take a look, Libby. I'll tune into your energy and let you know what I see. is blocking me from success? So, I'd love to have you here and be talking to you, because the first thing I would say is, what's your definition of success, Libby? What's your definition of success? Because it seems to me that you actually don't have a clear definition of success. And you're actually not really in tune with your own concept of what success is. It looks like you're swimming in a sea of concepts about what success is, and many of them are not yours. And so I guess it's similar to the last person, you know. We get brought up amongst these people called parents and relatives and teachers and, you know, so on. And they've all got their own sort of expectations of what we ought to do in life in order to be successful. And so that's the first thing that's coming up. And I'm seeing that all of those expectations have you running in a million different directions at once. Well, I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that. And if I don't do this, that person won't be, you know, pleased with me, so I better do, you know. And so I'm sort of seeing that your energy is just spread out really thinly amongst this huge, kind of like a to-do list. But it's just like you've got your fingers in too many pies and your energy is diluted. And so it's got to do with you defining what your own definition of success is. Forget about everybody else. And also defining what it is that you're wanting to create in the world. And then, if there's a number of things, prioritizing them so that you can focus all your energy into one at a time. Because the problem is that this world, this physical world, is limited by space and time. As spirit, we're outside of space and time. And that's why another reason why we can sometimes get so overzealous with all the things that we want to do. Because as spirit, we create instantly outside of time and space. But to get those creations into the body, we're dealing with time and space. And so we kind of need to choose and we need to prioritize. So that's the two things. Find out what you want, what your definition of success is, and choose the projects in accordance with that. And let go of everyone else's demands and expectations about that. Okay, so we've got time for one more question.
I'm not so sure about that. I have a question from Sandy.
Okay.
And Sandy writes, my question is, how do I follow my purpose?
Great question. You know, I'm often saying that that's the most common question I get is a question about either what is my life purpose or how do I follow my life purpose or I feel disconnected from my life purpose. It's a really, really common question. So I'm glad to answer it on air, Sandy, because I think there's a lot of people who identify with that. I'm going to tune in to Sandy's energy and see, how do I follow my purpose? Well, I'm seeing that you've got this very, again, it's to do with your concept of what is your life purpose. You've got this very, and I can't think of the word. The word is, when it's sort of up in the sky. You know, it's not anchored in reality. It's nefarious isn't quite the right idea. And ideal, having an ideal isn't quite the right idea. But I'm hoping kind of painting the picture because I can't find the word that I really want to use here. And so, and what I'm seeing is that and I'm also seeing, yes, you're connecting with it on an intellectual level. Thank you. It's what I was talking about earlier. You know, one of the biggest blocks to people connecting into that flow of spirits and that intuitive flow is the intellect. So I'm seeing that you've got this sort of concept, intellectual concept, that keeps your life purpose as an intellectual concept. And so I'm seeing that if you feel into your life purpose as opposed to think into your life purpose, that you should notice a shift. And again, I'll draw you to the heart center because there is an aspect of the heart center, which is, I call it affinity. Another word might be magnetism or magnetizing. And if you tune into your heart and you can feel what you feel passionate about, you can feel the things and the people that you are magnetized towards. And so I would suggest stop thinking, start feeling. And don't feel it with your emotions, feel it with your heart, feel it with your passion. Feel what you are, the direction that you are magnetized towards. Let your affinity guide you. It's part of your onboard inner guidance system that if you follow it, you cannot fail to follow your life purpose. All right. So you have been listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley, and I've had Corey Cowenberg in the studio with me today as well, and we've been answering your questions, and we've been talking about nature spirits.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.